That works. Okay, good evening. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Sonoma Historic Preservation Commission meeting to order, Tuesday, July 14th, 2026 at 6:01 p.m. Do we call roll? Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Commissioner SOHN,
Present.
Commissioner HAREN,
Present.
Commissioner Drake.
Present.
Thank you, and let the record show that Commissioner KUBAL, Commissioner AMAR, and Youth Commissioner WANGBICKLER are absent for this evening.
Thank you. Seeing that we don't have quorum, we're going to go ahead and move on to our public hearing. No, comments from the public, excuse me, on non-agenda items.
Sorry, thank you. My name's Tina Moy, and I'm just coming up here to let you guys know about a project that's being proposed in Sonoma. We are neighbors that live in the area right behind the General's Daughter and Ramekins 7 Branches. I don't know if you guys have heard, but there's a developer who's bought those properties, and they are proposing to tear down Ramekins, tear down the barn on the Kennard farm, which is not historic, but is still very beautiful and charming. But most worrisome to us is to physically lift and move the General's Daughter 40 feet plus up to the roadway. We're very concerned not only at the amount of homes they're hoping to put in, but at the kind of disregard for the history of the General's Daughter. You know, it's a 1870s Victorian home, has been home to actual people for years. We have researched, and it does not look as if it has ever actually been moved before. And we know that any movement would also have to require, you know, a lot of seismic changes, updating, things like that, that could cause damage to the structure. Our worry as neighbors and concerned city members is that if something was to actually damage the structure, that would give them leave to tear it down. And then we would lose one of the most important pieces of our Sonoma history. Looking at the registers, it doesn't look like it is a protected historic property. It is not on any state or national registers. But as the Historic Preservation Council, we hope that when these plans are brought forward to you, you take into account not only the history of the General's Daughter, but also Ramekins, the first rammed earth building in town that has become an integral part of our community. So we just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that coming up. There was an article in the Sun, and I believe it's being presented to the Planning Commission next month, but I could have that incorrect. But thank you so much for your time. Mm-hmm.
May I ask questions?
Robert Demler, First Street West, Sonoma. Good evening. Sorry, I just came in late, and I wanted to say ditto to everything that was just said. Thank you very much. I represent the Sonoma League for Historic Preservation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're moving on to items for discussion. Jennifer?
All right, so items for discussion. The first item is in regards to the historic landscape report that was prepared for Sonoma Plaza Park. We talked briefly that this was going to occur late last year, and so that report has been finalized. The link to that report was provided to you with the agenda packet. In it, it provides a pretty detailed history of all of the landscape and built environment within the Plaza Park itself, and who did it and the dates, and also identifies what are those contributing elements to our historic park. So when we think about contributing elements, it's those aspects that we want to try to preserve moving forward, maintain them in a historically accurate way, and so any kind of treatments and things which preserve them into the future. And also identifies those items that are not historic and could potentially be removed or replaced with something else. There are different projects that come up by different nonprofits, as you saw in the history of the Plaza Park, that is pretty much done by our partners that are in a variety of different interests that have done most of that work. And so that continues to be how a lot of the work is maintained and done within the plaza. So future projects will potentially move forward. The Parks Department and myself are developing what that process is going to look like moving forward for these projects in our historic city-owned properties, and trying to work through that kind of process. The report was provided to the public as well. So what staff is looking for is any comments, thoughts around that before we present it to the city council for acceptance. With acceptance by the city council, that becomes kind of like a guiding document that we would then use in these future project reviews. So that's the idea behind that report for our Plaza Park. And I am here to answer any questions as well around that. So we'll treat it kind of like we do with public hearings. If the commission has any questions for me, we'll do that, and then we'll open it to public comment, close public comment, and then bring it back for any further discussion and comments. Because we don't have a quorum, we won't vote on commission's position. I'll just take it down as comments received when I provide it to the council. Okay?
Commissioner Drake?
Yeah, a couple of questions. I did read it.
Can you click your microphone?
Sorry about that. I did read it. It's a lot. Very interesting summary of our history and current state of affairs. I want to characterize it as sort of a baseline, and I'm wondering if you would sort of agree. It doesn't particularly make any action statements. It sort of says, here's a state of what was and what is, with maps and things at the end. And I'm assuming the purpose, therefore, primarily is to take it as a baseline and say, this is kind of what, as a city, we're agreeing is the state of our historic situation. Is that a kind of a fair characterization, a one-word characterization?
I think that's fair. It's a statement of what is in a very long document.
Yeah.
The idea behind the report, obviously, is it goes into a lot of the history and outlines what that period of time, what's extant today that reflects from those time periods, right? And so our Plaza Park has a very distinct period of significance. And so we're identifying what was built during that time and what still exists and what's in good condition
Okay.
and has integrity.
May I ask my next two questions? There was an emphasis on the, I forget the phrase, something period, 1900 to 1940. What's the word I'm forgetting?
That's your period of significance.
Period of significance. I understood that to mean that's when there was a fair amount of intentionality put into some redesigns and some structures and monuments, et cetera, that are now considered permanent, and somehow a more important period than later. Like most of the action happened then, and subsequently it's been about maintenance or renovation or whatever. And I guess what I'm wondering is there an importance to designating a significant period? Is that in there for a reason, 1900 to 1940?
So when we identify period of significance for anything from the park to the plaza as a whole is a National Register district. The plaza is a component of that district. And so as a whole, the majority of the structures and the design of the streets and things all happened within that period of time. So yes, the simple version of saying the majority of the work that represents this period of time is this right here. And so we're gonna look at that. We did look to see if anything after that has any historic value or contributes more to the actual district as a whole, because remember, this is just a component of that.
Right.
And So there were elements that came into the park after that, that 1940 timeframe, but that hasn't been seen as contributing to the period of significance or the historic value of the Plaza district as a whole.
Okay. And then my third, and I promise last big picture question is, there was a conclusion that the plaza could qualify for something, and I don't even want to say what it is, some form of state and national recognition. If you could just paraphrase and explain what that is and why it's important.
Sure. So the actual Plaza district, a component of it, is actually listed on as a National Historic Landmark. A National Historic Landmark means that the plaza itself contributes to our national history. So we have different levels of significance. We have structures or landscapes and things that contribute to maybe our local development or our local history. We have things that contribute to a statewide history, and then we have things that could contribute to a national history. That's like the creme de la creme. Back in the day, we would have called it George Washington slept here
Yeah.
status.
Right.
And it's around that same time that the National Historic Landmark program started, of where we were starting to identify some of these places that contributed to our growth as a nation. And so Plaza is one of those places. As we know, it's where the bear flag was raised to state that we were going to be part of the United States. And so that's why that was contributing to a national history. Obviously, we also contribute to the California history as the birthplace of the bear flag. And then our local history is that this is where our community was actually founded and predates statehood, as being the last mission on the trail,
Yeah.
the Camino de Real.
Okay.
So that's what that's in regards to. So we're already listed. I think what it was saying is that we could update that listing, because it's when those were done a long time ago, they may have had like a paragraph that just said this is important because, and it was nice and short. It didn't have a lot of that background documentation and support. But with this document, we now have a lot of those components that we could update that listing and say, kind of beef it up. It doesn't have to be done. It's just something that we could go through the process of getting that broadened with our landmark status.
Okay.
Commissioner Herron, I want to go to you for questions that you might have, but before we do, welcome to the public that joined us during this discussion. Sure. Is this better? Can you hear me now? A little bit better? I just wanted to make you aware, I heard some chatter. There are agendas outside if you don't have one, and because we do not have quorum, we've moved to items for discussion 4.1. So that's what we're discussing now. Okay? Commissioner Herron?
Thank you for sending along the report. I agree with Commissioner Drake. It was extensive, but I learned a lot.
Yes.
It took me a little bit when I got past page 20, and I think there was 182 pages total. To piggyback on to Commissioner Drake's question, when the phrase baseline is used, just so I understand the importance of the document, so now if there's any changes to be proposed to be made to our plaza, this would be the document that we would use to say, does this make sense to remove X and we could replace it with something else, or it was during the period of significance and we can't. And so this document would be the go-to reference to say if changes could be made to the plaza without disrupting the historical significance behind the plaza.
Another great point.
Correct. So it not only identifies the built environment, but also the landscaping material, the plant material. And so with that, it's saying, okay, so one of these examples is around the Italian fountain. the hedge itself needs to be replaced. And so we would want to replace it in its same design pattern with a similar hedge so that we are restoring that feature. Now, what's inside that hedge box is not historic, and so we have more flexibility on what kind of plant material we would like to plant in that space. So that's a kind of an example. The Italian fountain is historic, so we would look to maintain and restore that fountain, not remove it or replace it with something else. Because it is historic, we would want to first try to restore and maintain. Okay, so it helps us identify what our treatment is going to be on some of these different features within the plaza.
Wonderful, thank you. That was my only question.
I don't have any questions, but echo great questions, as always. I want to thank staff for their time putting the report together. Certainly lots to have that we were able to learn. I just appreciate the work that goes into that. I know it's not always recognized, but we certainly appreciate it. And we do read it, so all the pages of it. So, sure.
May I ask one more
Yeah.
question? Will there be an effort to capture the report in a slightly shorter, more digestible format for the baseline, for the record? Maybe even buy it at the bookstore or the visitor center or something like that.
We could look at that. I already thought about kind of cutting it up a little bit in the sense of those that are just interested in the history component of it and maybe compartmentalizing that as like a part one. Part two is more about, which is the second half of that document, and third part is more about what's contributing to the plaza, what's not, what are the recommendations, kind of more of what the consultant is paid to analyze. The other part was like the history, and I think a lot of the public would be more interested in that component of it, since
Yeah.
it's a neat little. It's not written like a history book. It's really written like these reports are written, which is just fact.
Right.
So.
Well, I'm sure ChatGPT could dress it up really quickly.
Yeah, but we won't do that.
No, we won't. Well, if we were voting and carrying this forward to the City Council, I would recommend that there be consideration of doing something like that, because to me it was very interesting, informative, and a bit of a baseline, and it would be worthy of capturing in some shorter, more readable fashion.
When it was available, I guess I have one question. When it was made available to the public, what was the feedback? Were there any narratives that maybe were a little bit more prevalent, visible?
We did not see, I was just double checking, we didn't see anything in the public comment email is where we asked for comments to be sent. So I didn't see anything. There may be people here tonight that wanted to talk to it and coming in person, because that was how we promoted it, was to come here or to submit online. Well, Kat's here now, so we can actually vote. So what we can do is we can open to public comment and then we'll come back. Okay.
Just to get caught up. So we are on 4.1, items for discussion. It was the historic landscape report. I think that was the name of it. Yep. That was sent to us for review. Now that we have quorum, we could take a look at making a recommendation for staff to move it to City Council. But before we do that, we're going to open it up to public comment. Was there anyone who was interested that is here tonight to comment on 4.1, to provide any comment on the historic landscape report for the Sonoma Plaza Park? No? Okay. Well, seeing none. Noted. No other public comment? Okay, we're going to close public comment. Do we do a roll call vote? Nope. Okay, so commission members want to bring back for discussion the historic landscape report for the Sonoma Plaza as presented by staff. Recommendation from staff is that we accept the report as given to us. And so, do we do a discussion or yes? Do you have any questions? Do you have any comments that you wanted to from reviewing it? No. Okay. Okay. So, I guess is it consensus or a vote?
You
What
can
would you
do
like?
a vote
Okay.
or a recommendation to city council to accept the report.
Perfect. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so Commissioner Drake motions, Commissioner Herron seconds. Do we have any other further discussion?
Well, I'll go ahead now that we do have a quorum and make my suggestion again that we forward it with a suggestion, however that works, that it be made available in a neatly packaged, readable, somewhat shortened way that's published and available, whether that's for free or for charge, because I think it's a great baseline, and I think a lot of people would love to have a copy of it. We have one right here.
Yeah.
I think you said you'd even pay for it, right? I'm not holding you to it. So I would add that to our recommendation.
May I call the roll, please?
Commissioner Sohn,
Yes.
Commissioner Herron,
Yes.
Commissioner Drake,
Yes.
Commissioner KUBAL.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We are moving now to item 4.2, review of the Historic Preservation Commission, purpose and discussion on the 2026 Historic Preservation Commission Annual Work Plan and identify potential ad hoc committees. And we began that discussion at our last meeting. It's been a little while since then, so we might need a refresher, so I'll turn it back to Jennifer. Thank you.
No problem. Just let me get this computer to work. Where'd it go? Okay. All right, so every time I touch it, I know. It's sensitive. Sorry about that. All right, do you guys have anything on your screens?
Do
Okay.
you all see that up there? Yes? Okay.
I just need to make it bigger. Yeah, you know, it's the little things, Robert. All right. And so one of the requests from Commissioner Drake was to go back over the commission itself. And so in the agenda packet, I put in what's in the municipal code for the description of the Historic Preservation Commission. So a lot of the goals of who the composition is set because we are what's considered a certified local government under both the federal and the state standards. Certified local government means that we have an ordinance in place. We don't technically have a general plan element yet, but that's one of them, and that we have a commission. And we have processes to review historic resources. So those are the things, and so part of it is that the commission should have a certain composition. With such a small community, it's kind of hard to have every single component of this, so we just try our best. The others is the duties and responsibilities. So obviously we have authority. We'll go back to the end just a second. So the purpose of the Historic Preservation Commission, again, as you would think, is to protect our architectural heritage, preserve our significant historic resources, and enhance our visual character of the built environment. and then promote our architecture. With that, this commission, the duties and responsibilities are to recommend city council policies and programs that support our historic preservation program, review and make recommendations to the State Office of Historic Preservation regarding nominations of property located within the city to the National Register of Historic Places. We're going to perform any duties as assigned under what I was talking about in regards to the Preservation Act and being a CLG. Our goal is to enforce that. Administer nominations, designations, and registry of the local historic resources and districts. Develop and administer historic preservation plans, historic resource inventories, context statements, design guidelines, and other information, plans and procedures. Implement applicable provisions of our CEQA pertaining to historic and cultural resources. Conduct sign review in accordance with provisions. As of right now, we won't be doing that in the future. We're going to try to make majority of that just administrative. And then consult with, advise, and report to City Council on a regular basis in regards to the duties as assigned. Based on that, we talked about at the last meeting, which we didn't have a quorum, so we didn't vote on it, so we're going to look at it again, was what our work plan was for the year. Some of them include things that you participate in as commissioners, and other things are just, this is what staff has on the list to help further the role of the commission that you will hear about. One of them was the one we heard tonight about the historic landscape report, which basically is a way of saying like a context statement. That's our baseline for the plaza. So with that, I'm going to go to the next item. Back here. Okay, our work plan. So at the last meeting, we talked about the work plan. Those of you that were able to attend early this year, we reviewed the historic cultural resources element and provided comments on that. We should be getting that back from the consultant, hopefully this fall, early fall. And so we'll review again what the modifications were that they have provided, as well as the section in regards to the environmental impact report for the general plan as it relates to the cultural resources. So we'll be doing that later this year. We meet quarterly now instead of monthly, but if we need to have a special meeting, I'll reach out to you all and we'll establish when that good meeting date would be, if it's not falling well within my review period. The other is a citywide historic survey and context statement.
Jennifer, can you just explain what it is, historic and cultural resources? What's that piece? How's it's different from the report we just looked at?
Sure. So the general plan itself is a citywide policy document that sets kind of the guidelines for how we are going to do a municipal code. So our municipal code sets the rules, and the general plan sets kind of that guidance for what those rules are. So the general plan, we're doing a comprehensive update right now. And so with that, it's going to identify things that we're going to need to do in the code itself to do updates, because it's going to create new policies and processes that we'll need to refine. So again, big policy document. Historic and cultural resources covers everything from tribal, archaeological, built environment. How do we identify them? How are we going to process them moving forward? One of the things that the city doesn't have a lot around is archaeology and tribal. And so that's what we're hoping to identify, some more policy guidance around how we're going to treat sensitive sites and recognize their sensitivity before construction. So that's the idea behind that. The cultural the landscape survey that we just did is more like a historic resource evaluation for a site, but our site just happens to be a park, the Plaza Park itself. So it's a refined document just looking at a history of a small space versus the general plan is just going to be, it summarizes kind of our general history of how we've grown as a city, but it doesn't get into the more of those details. The next item, when we talk about this citywide historic survey and the context statement, that's where a lot of information is being developed right now that helps us set the groundwork for listing future resources on our historic resources list. The context statement, which the city has not prepared in the past, is going to actually define periods of time in our development as a community. With that, it identifies different people that were during that time frame, whether it's people that did specific things to further us as a city, or maybe architects that were common during that time, or contractors that were common. So it's going to identify some of those elements so that when we look at future resources, it's a quick, okay, this may be contributing because of these things to this period of time, because this person built it. There's other aspects of it I'll get into in just a second, but that's the idea behind a context statement. It's going to do who, what, when, sometimes where, and so it's going to look at that, and it's going to define, kind of set up a history for those different periods of time. The historic survey itself is citywide. It's looking, the consultant, it drives around and it's identifying different potential resources. So they initially just pull a GIS map that identifies all the structures that are of a certain age. And these structures we haven't previously already identified as eligible, nor have we already listed them. So they're not going to re-look at some things. Some of the items I am having them look at if they haven't been done within the last 10 years. So we're going to look at everything in the city to see what potentially may rise to the top as potentially eligible for listing at the city. So these documents will be brought to this commission for review and potentially to recommend listing on our historic resources list locally. One of those items that we talked about in your duties, that's one of them. The other duty is there may be resources that we haven't identified that could potentially be eligible. So there is an opportunity at that time as well to make recommendation to further that to be listed on the National Register. We won't get into the nitty-gritty of what that encompasses, but there are opportunities around that if during that survey they've identified a potential that it could be listed. It is a bigger document, more research that would need to be done for anything like that, but those are the types of things that we get out of the initial document.
Well, relevant to comments that were made earlier, is the General's Daughter building, for example, something that would go through this process and would be designated in a different way than it's been designated in the past?
Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to look at to see if it was designated already or listed on our list. I don't think it is, because the majority of our list of historic resources are actually resources that were identified as contributing to our historic districts. And we don't have that many individually listed resources, so it's just something that I wanted to look at to see what level of review we've already have done for that structure and others.
Follow up to that. Can you remind us, in order for a designation to be made federally, does it have to be recognized first by the state and or local government?
So the process is, because we're a CLG, we would typically make the recommendation. Owner, the owner has to consent to actually get it listed. So we wouldn't actually, if an owner did not want to list it on the state register, we wouldn't go through the process to bring it forward. You can list locally we can list things that may have local importance or state importance. It doesn't mean that it's not important to the state just because the state doesn't list it or because the federal government doesn't list it.
Follow-up question to that is, and I guess this could be applied to the general's daughter or any of these potential. Being designated, does that change the use and the purpose of that space,
No.
tax-wise?
No. So the idea behind it is that a listing, a couple of different things. Since we're in the state of California, there are aspects of something that is actually listed or something that's determined eligible. I'm not going to get into all
Sure.
the different laws that are currently
Sure.
changing the words for me and the meanings, but it has implications around our California Environmental Quality Act. Doesn't mean something can't be demolished. It just means that there's a process for their review. And so it identifies that, and because it's a potential impact in the environment. The environment aspect of it is usually the public component, because historic preservation has been seen as a public benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, if I'm a private residence, you don't have public access to the
Right.
inside of my building, right? If historically we've talked about, not here, but in historic worlds, we talk about like a bank building. It's a public inside, so sometimes those murals or other elements can be part of that contributing feature of that listing. But most cases, in our instances here in the city, it's going to be exterior that we're looking to preserve. So what goes on inside, how they use it, it doesn't
Understood.
matter. So we have a lot of actual buildings that were built as homes here that are now offices. Any other questions before I move to the next item? Okay. So that one will be coming multiple times, and that project is slated to be finished by summer of next year. We just talked about the historic landscape survey, so that one hoping to take to council in August. The things that we still want to work on, and we've started, our public information officer has started with a couple of pages.
Sorry, I have
okay.
a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Is the historic, what was that, survey, city, is that the, I want to say software, that's the wrong term. The thing you showed us with all the dots and the colors, is that? No.
So that will be updated with
What
the
was
survey.
that? I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's what that is our current list of historic resources and our historic districts that are on, let's just simplify and call it a web map.
Okay. Thank you.
And that now has a web page, which
Great.
is what I was getting ready to say.
Yeah, that's great.
So we have a couple of web pages that we've created. We've created one for each one of these projects that we just talked about. The historic survey has a web page. The historic landscape survey has a web page. And then now we also have a web page for the map. And so people can access that map and look at the different resources and the links to the documents
great.
that for like the district nomination forms and
These are
things
live
like that.
now?
It's live now.
Okay.
And so then in the background, during the citywide historic survey, we'll be updating that GIS with that survey information that will say whether something is determined eligible or ineligible based on their survey that they've done. We are looking to kind of build that webpage more. So any interest in helping, this is one of those that I wouldn't mind some help.
You're on the historic preservation webpage.
Correct. So any ideas, and it doesn't necessarily mean you have to write anything, but if you want to help me do research on like some great pages that you've seen of, that are simple, understandable, as you know, in government, we can be very wordy and use big words. And we try to make them easy, but it doesn't always work. But looking at those different ways that we can do the different web pages and make it kind of like a grouping and kind of help it along. I had no idea when until we started talking about this, I think last year, that literally there is nothing on historic preservation on our website, not even the fact that it requires a permit. So there's a lot to still be added to the pages, and so lots of opportunity for improvement there.
Well, a question about funding. Does it need consultant support to really get legs and get done?
No. Our PIO is currently in the process of updating the whole website to make it accessible. And while we're doing it, we've been just kind of creating pages as needed. As long as I can give her the text and the format, she can get it in pretty easily. I can as well, I just don't have the time. But it's something also that as time allows, maybe a permit tech or obviously Monique is here right now, she's not a permit tech, but Hannah, who you know, something like Hannah could do, things like that to help.
And then just to confirm, that website and the building of this, that's also so that a potential home buyer or existing homeowner can type in their address and understand where they stand with the city in terms of changing the facade of their home.
Correct. So that web map, you can type in your address and it'll tell you whether you've been determined eligible or not. So, okay. So that's an opportunity for anybody that wants to help. The other is in regards to historic preservation, education, and engagement. Obviously, we have the League, who's represented here tonight, and the Historical Society. So both are active in community education and getting speakers and things like that. But with that, there's also opportunities to further that along, come up with additional ideas. As a certified local government, we are eligible for funding. The federal government has restricted that, but it's reopening. I've already allocated the $25 to the context statement because it's not a lot of money that we actually get. But in the past, I've used we call it CLG, so Certified Local Government, CLG funds. In 2 of the jurisdictions I've worked, I've used it specifically to fund education programming and to actually pay for speakers to come and do presentations or help fund putting it together, marketing materials, brochures on, because a lot of people are still paper, but we can put it online as well. Pay for it to be recorded. So every time I get something recorded by KSVY, we pay for that kind of thing. So those are just different things that we could do in the future. But we can also work in partnership with the other organizations. I will say that when I did those education, it was not just with our historic advocacy groups. It was also, I did one with a sustainability organization to promote that historic resources are actually green resources. So different avenues are around historic preservation that have those linkages. So there's different opportunities there.
Are some of these ad hocs that we're looking at developing just for commission members, or could we add members of the public representing such groups?
So they can come as additional, what did we call it? I can't remember the exact word, but professional or experts. And so the commission is limited on how many people from the commission can be on it. And then it's open to the public, so because it is a Brown Act. And so they could come in and participate as an expert in that process. So we did this recently in Planning Commission when we were doing the whole sign ordinance update, and we had an expert on that ad hoc that actually processes sign permits.
Is this the public shows up or they're invited as an expert?
No, we would do the specific expert request.
Reach
for-
out to,
Yeah, depending on what it is. And then, like I said, to participate, and then it's open to the public. So it's run like a Brown Act meeting.
hint, hint, out there.
So that is around the historic preservation, education, and engagement. So,
Just a quick question about
Uh-huh.
activation of empty storefronts.
sure.
What do you have in mind? Exhibits and.
Yeah, so I've seen in other communities, so because I'm a planner by trade, and when I travel, I look at the built environment a lot and what people do. I've seen different approaches where I've seen the empty storefronts instead of seeing just paper, it's, historic images that, or something along those lines. If they're blank spaces, working with the owners to see what they're willing to do. Some are not, but some may be, especially around the plaza. If there's no interest in actually activating the space, that maybe at least we could activate the window itself. Or even in between tenants or something, that there's opportunities. Or maybe during construction, I've seen that too. I think in Napa around the historic post office, I want to say there's some historic images of things on the gate, on the fences. So there's just different things that can be done around kind of still promoting history in different ways. And so that's kind of the idea around the education and engagement. It'd be more like engaging people in our history in different ways.
I have a no, I guess it is related, but I have an interesting question. Maybe you have an answer, maybe you don't. Tough, ready?
Ready.
Lightning round.
I'm ready.
Out of the vacancies that we know of, surround front-facing plaza and/or the ones that we've identified here, how many of the landlords do we know that, is there anybody that we know that doesn't live here? Meaning they own the property and that they live out of state, or they don't reside in the area, out of curiosity.
So, do I know that
Do we-
exactly?
No.
Can I know it? Yes. There's just different reasons why people don't rent their spaces, or don't, and regardless if it's commercial or residential. It's private property, so I'm not even going to go into that part of it. So it could be a corporation, it could be a trust, it could be an individual. There's lots of different things going on our properties throughout the country, why things are empty. There's not a one answer, I would say.
That question wasn't meant to be a statement of any sort, although I have my feelings about it. Follow up to that, how many vacant spaces do we have? You know?
I think right now we have like 4 maybe.
Oh, no, a
No,
lot.
there's not a lot
Yeah, okay, thank you.
in the plaza. I'm talking specifically plaza.
Specifically the plaza, yes.
So that's an opportunity for participation in an ad hoc too, that, just to help generate ideas and help make connections and things like that. And then the last one on the list that I had originally created and we discussed at that last meeting, I did present this to council, but it doesn't mean that we can't add things next year. I mean, obviously we have 6 more months in this year, and it's more of like a calendar. We look to see what the city council goals will be set in January, and then we recreate the work plan off that. And that's the comprehensive update to the historic preservation ordinance. So as I stated earlier, with the general plan update, it's going to identify new policies and potentially processes and procedures that need to be updated based on those policies that we would then put into an ordinance. Could be additional incentives. We don't have a lot of incentives for historic preservation in our code right now. It could be clarifications around design. We do actually have design guidelines for historic resources that a consultant prepared and we adopted like, I don't know, 5 years ago, I want to say. With the new laws, we need to make them objective. So that's a project that needs to be done still, and that's a lot of what the code needs to be updated with, is to make things a little bit more objective when it comes to housing and housing projects. So those are just some of the things that I've been thinking about and that we would look at later after that general plan is finished. So that's kind of like an ongoing one, but I wanted to make sure it made the list so we don't forget about it.
Do you have any other questions?
Well, I just thought I'd ask a question about scheduling and prioritizing for the next several meetings. Do you have a sense of where you want to go with some of these things?
So I would like to meet before the next meeting with whatever ad hocs that we had decide to do, and then we would present on that. I'm thinking that the general plan may be right in that same time frame that we have the next meeting. If not, I may adjust that meeting to fit within that calendar schedule. Typically, it's 45 days to 60 days that the public comment period would be on the general plan. And so my goal is to meet with every commission during that time frame. And so there's a lot of finagling of meetings during that time, because this one meets quarterly, Fine Arts meets quarterly, and Parks meets quarterly, right? Those are the three. And Traffic. Those
How
four.
was that special meeting? You had that, the general plan meeting a month ago.
The
Oh,
long
excuse me,
ago.
a couple months ago.
The one that we did with for
Yes,
cultural resources.
Correct, joint.
Oh, that was good. Yeah. So no, in the cultural resources one, when we did it in the EOC, that was a good conversation. We went through the whole element, and then we had also representatives from different organizations as well as state parks.
Fantastic.
So we really could get into some of those details
Fantastic.
with different representation.
Commissioner KUBAL, you had a question?
Well, my question was actually just when the general plan was expected to be completed.
Goals.
So are you looking for ad hoc recommendations from this commission today?
I am looking for ad hoc recommendations. If you want to form an ad hoc on specific things, those two were the ones that I recommended. It could be just one. It just depends on what the interest. Obviously, there's only 5 commissioners, so we're looking for only
Right,
2.
Right. per,
2 per group. There could be 3 because technically there's 7 commissioners, so you could have 3 on one of them. I'd recommend not doing it on both because
right.
there's only 5 of you. Yeah, we can.
We can, but, yes, but let's get through this, and absolutely. Jennifer, was one of the recommendations for ad hoc the designations? The register?
The register itself, no, not at this time. It's not really
Okay,
ready for any kind of review. If we get closer and I have more of a timeline of when those drafts are ready and we want to create an ad hoc to review those drafts before they come to the commission, we can do that. I do that with the planning commission.
Right, yeah.
We do draft ordinances in an ad hoc, and then we bring it forward to the commission as a whole.
Specifically for that, at that time, could that be a joint ad hoc between planning and, planning commission and this commission?
So when we do the ordinances themselves, yes, that's an opportunity. The survey itself, that's all your purview.
Got it. I would just like to say, I'd like us to somehow, if we can, when that time comes, work with planning, as there's a lot that I think overlaps parallel. Specifically, I just wanted to say that I've wanted to create more opportunity, I've said this a few times, for us to work amongst our commissions together if there's opportunity for us to do so. There's a lot to be learned from each other, so, okay.
Okay. Do you want to open for public comment?
Yes.
And then we can come back to,
Yes, we're going to open up
Figure
for
what we're
public
doing.
comment on item 4.2. Just a reminder, if you could state your name and so on and so forth again. Thank you.
Sorry for the interruption. It was self-serving.
No.
Robert Demler, First Street West. I represent the Sonoma League for Historic Preservation also. I'm very happy I came tonight for all of this, but happy to be called an expert instead of a troublemaker. So thank you very much. I'm from Texas. I hope I remember the three things. When you say historic resources, does this mean the same thing as the document that at times was called the Inventory of Historic Sites and Structures? Is that the same thing? Okay, thank you. When you finish this effort, next year, I guess, I would recommend having the public have an opportunity to hear you. We at the Sonoma League sponsor lectures from time to time. Jennifer came to one. It was very well attended. As soon as you say somebody from the city's coming, the attendees are very happy to come and ask questions. So I would like to have a panel of your commission and Jennifer and whomever else is appropriate to come next year. We'd be very happy to sponsor it. And an old beef of mine is we need a better connection between the preservation guidelines, rules, whatever you want to call them, and the realtors in town. If we ever have any controversies at the league, it's because some realtor has either sold already or in the process of selling something that is either historic or potentially historic, and sometimes even call it historic, and then the new owner comes in. It reminds me of this off-Broadway play in the late 1990s, which the title was, "I Love You, Marry Me, Now Change." And so people buy a property, and of course they want to put their stamp on it. So they should know before they get into that process of what the guidelines are. And I'd love to have you all sponsor some evening with the realtors. Anyway, thank you for all you're doing. I'm cheering you on. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Well, thank you.
Good report, Jennifer. Thank you.
Well, first off, we'll say, I don't know if we're the experts or the panel you want. Certainly Jennifer and the team at the city who do a lot of the work that we review. We couldn't do it without their support. And so they're the ones that you probably want on the panel. But I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say we'd be happy to, if that was something that we got to staff and then it got out to the commission. That's something we'd be. The other thing that I will just say I have the gavel is our chair happens to be a realtor and very actively engaged. So the chair of our commission. So I would encourage you maybe to reach out directly to her. She's actively engaged with the association. That might be of interest to her. Any other public comment? Okay. We're going to close public comment. And Jennifer, I need some guidance now.
So if you all want to form an ad hoc, if there is interest or participating in some way, so an ad hoc is a group, again, 2 or 3, that has a specific project, and that is your premise. So you will work on just that project for a period of time to complete that project. Once that project is done, then the ad hoc goes away. So that's the idea behind an ad hoc. So we just think of it that way. You're not going to work on other things. You're specifically identified for that one item. That's why I was saying, if there's not, you don't have to participate in this way. This is an open way in which commissioners can participate outside of this meeting. But again, we have to limit it because of the Brown Act to the number of people. This is also a way in which we get help with limited staff and time. Sometimes it helps to just have a little extra hands of people that may be interested to help us do the research or look at things, or, we participate in these ad hoc meetings too, or put together, the list of people to put into the room to have conversations around creating an education program for the year, or what are the education programs already happening that we can put together with our own, and here's all of them. There's just endless opportunities. So if those are things that are of interest to you, maybe individually you can talk about what's of interest, and if nothing, totally fine. If there is something, just let me know.
Can you just pull up on what were the two recommendations that you had already, and I think that's something we should certainly consider now, but I could tell you I'll volunteer for one of them already. The speaker series, right, and that's the, where is that?
So the ones that I was
In
recommending right
education
now,
and-
because there's a
yeah.
need right this second,
Right.
is the historic preservation web pages and the education and engagement.
So I think
will
those
be
two go hand in
opportunity.
hand.
Yes, they could go hand in hand, but sometimes
Sure.
web page development I have found to be a little
Sure.
cumbersome in
Sure.
some ways, but they can go hand in hand for sure. That's why I was saying we could keep them separate, we could put them together. It just depends on the interest from the group.
Yeah.
There will potentially, like we talked about, that historic context statements, when those are available and need to be reviewed, or the general plan itself, there could be an opportunity for an ad hoc. And just so that you know, an ad hoc can actually be identified by the chair, and they can identify members outside of a meeting. So we're doing this to be transparent and have a meeting and have a discussion about what our interests are. But in the future, it could be something that just gets done.
Okay. So, to clarify, the chair appoints the members of those ad hocs?
Technically, yes, that would be typically a chair thing, but I've done it with the commissions where we just work it out as a group.
Sure.
Because that way we can talk about it.
Right. Well, I certainly would like to personally be involved with historic preservation, education, and engagement. I think there's even a civic component to this at the education level for students that we want to graduate that are from here, that we want to send off, learn something, come back, and give back to their community. I think that I've heard recently, so you all know I'm not from Sonoma, but I'm a proud frickin' Sonoma, excuse me. I love this county, I love this city, almost 7 years now, and I jumped head in. But there are some others that need help and some of that support to see the importance of what they have when they come back home. And recently I've heard so many stories of people who have returned home or starting over, and they're doing the same thing. So I think that this is something I'm heavily interested in, and I would like to support that, but I would also add a grants component to that. If you need support in that, that happens to be something I do quite a bit. If there's funding needed to put on some of this programming, to go and visit the schools, to put on a panel with parallel aligning advocacy entities, I want to help support that so that we can use city dollars for city things and not have to do the extracurricular. I will let the rest of the commission chime in on where they feel of interest, but certainly that is a highlight for me. Start. Commissioner KUBAL?
I mean, I'm happy to help with the education. I don't have any ideas really that like jump out at me right now. Whenever there is a commission around the general plan, or if there is an ordinances and procedures and that kind of thing, like that would be something that I would very happily help with. But I mean, I'm happy to do research or look up photos or, participate but not lead.
Uh-huh. Got it. Commissioner HAREN? I don't know what.
Once the website is ready with the documentation that states what's been a historical resource and what's not, and it's searchable, the building of that is not my skill set. I would be happy to take that on, and I can lead an ad hoc meeting. I'm going to speak for Kelly. So as an interior designer, she's a real estate agent. I am thinking that could be a natural partnership. Obviously, I'll check with Kelly when she returns. But that's something that could be an education and awareness and a gathering of a panel. We host an event and so forth. And that would be something that we could invite all realtors to, all interior designers to, and bring forth that education to those that are engaging with new homeowners and those that are selling the homes. So once that website is ready and there is visibility into that, I'm happy to lead that ad hoc. In the meantime, because that's not ready yet, I would be happy to co-lead an ad hoc of the empty storefronts from a visual perspective. I have a studio that's right off the square, and the empty storefronts bother me visually. And I can only imagine that it looks a little sad for the tourists that do the lap as they do around the square. And that's something that I'm happy to be on a committee for. I think that sounds interesting. And anything is better than those blank windows looking in a dusty, sad space.
Commissioner Drake, before you go, I will add that I'd be happy to serve on the vacancy ad hoc with Commissioner HAREN as a Chamber of Commerce executive, certainly economic development and making sure we're not having vacancies. 4 is actually a really good number in a city our size and in the Plaza. But certainly, if we can get those filled or at least do something in the meantime with those spaces, absolutely. So I'd be happy to serve. Commissioner Drake.
Just to clarify, the Brown Act, 2 of us maximum on these ad hocs, is that right, Jennifer?
Yes, but we can split out like special project and, you know, like if there's interest. So it sounded like Daniel's interested in 2 different, could be 2 different things. But if there's also interest, you know, in those same things or different things like around the vacant structures, let's say there's 3 people, again, it's 3 and 2. So, and it could be just to give evenness amongst the group. No substitute. Can't have 4 people talking about the same thing without. So what we could do though is the vacant structures being separate from the overall education and engagement, like idea creation and execution itself. And then also from the realtor and perspective, there is a component of it where I get where you're talking about the web map and it being ready, but I think there's an opportunity now to still provide information. It may not have the easy access for them to say, am I listed or not, but to develop the materials that will help a realtor be able to say, because your house is this year's old, these are the things that would be required if you're going to do something. So there's other potential around that concept. So Commissioner Drake.
Well, I was going to mention interest in the storefronts, specifically, if you remember, actually it happened in my absence. We looked at Mike Acker's artwork about the Plaza. And to me, that's just sort of a no-brainer to put in a storefront. They just hang on the hall in the community center, which is lovely, but they're very movable and very interesting to look at, and I'd love to get them out on the Plaza somewhere.
I'd be happy to step back if that would be an interest for you, certainly, but want to support that in any way that I can still. Question. Is the chair considered one of the, there's a term for this. On all of the ad hoc, what's the word, yeah.
So the chair.
It's officio, thank you.
No, the chair is going to be one of the members if they are interested in participating, so they would be one of the 2 or 3. So regardless, just think of it as 4 makes a quorum. That's a decision-making body. It needs to be done in the public with a public agenda and notice and the whole 9 yards.
Are there any other questions, comments?
I have a comment. You know me, Jennifer, I'm always the one to say you're the expert. Tell us what you think is most important. So I would be interested in you sort of digesting the various interests that we have, maybe providing a little organization as to how it might break out and work with the Brown Act and get the most done for you and something like that. And we could kind of have a follow-up conversation about how we
Okay.
can fill the right boxes to move forward with things that you consider to be most important.
Sure. So right now, what I am thinking, based on what I heard, is that HAREN, AMAR, and Drake do more of the storefront, realtor, that component aspect of, because it's not, it could be like promotion and activation of vacant space, but also a realtor touch as well, for just, you know, what do realtors need to know, or homeowners, you know, being in interior design, you sometimes touch the outside. And then on the other one would be kind of creating more of that education and engagement program and working with partners. If there's, right now, it would be you two that I would see that. And the reason why, Commissioner KUBAL, I would put you on that too, at this point, is because you have a unique perspective being in more of that archaeology world.
So to echo Commissioner Drake's comments, because I think, did that kind of help you? But, okay, because I think that we have, they're looking for a recommendation for us. So were these the 2 ad hocs that you would like to see us move forward with? Is that?
Based on your interest, yes, those would be
Okay.
the 2 that we would do. I'm not gonna create ad hocs that nobody has.
Got it.
interest in.
Does this commission feel comfortable moving forward with a possible recommendation? Okay, so then, do I have a motion?
You don't need to vote.
I don't know, so consensus?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I think I heard consensus.
Okay, so you have consensus to move forward with the 2 recommended ad hocs, which I believe are HP, Education and Engagement. Oh, what did we merged
So
something.
we're doing the vacant structures and then we're gonna broaden that
There you
to
go.
a little bit more around the realtor component, and then the other one will be on education and engagement programming,
What she said,
what I said.
what you said.
And then I'll send emails to try to set up meetings. using
Commissioner Herring,
Doodle poll.
question?
This is going to feel out of left field, but in light of that amazing, reputable report that we were reviewing before, with our historic landscape report and then thinking of ad hoc committees, this is not directly tied to the historical preservation, but in light of how amazing our plaza is, there is a desire from myself and a bunch of community members on, is there a way to make our public restroom on the square a little bit nicer? And I know that's gonna feel out of left field, but I think, like, I get asked all the time where the bathroom is, and I send people to that, and I don't think it's a reflection of like how beautiful our city is, how beautiful the square is, all of our amazing history that I want them to walk around. And ultimately, I think we need more plaques walking through people that want to do the walking tours. But I know this doesn't fall exactly in historical preservation, but I would love to put on record if that was an ad hoc committee, I would happily take that on, because I do think it brings down our value.
Bathroom warrior, I love it. It's true, though. It's
That's
very
all.
true. There's also a wasp nest by the men's restroom.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll work on that.
Okay, so just thought of another ad hoc, which could be the development of a printed piece of the report.
Yeah,
Ah.
good.
And maybe we could wait a little bit on that until we had some other commissioners, but I think I made the suggestion that we encourage the city council to do that, but it seems to me that we could be an ad hoc to carry that ball forward a little bit, just identifying everything from a writer to a printer, you know.
Absolutely.
So maybe we have to finalize that one today, but I think
Yeah.
it would help to take it on.
I'd also just like to throw out some expert, certainly Jim, what was his name? You know what I'm talking about? Silverman, and then the gentleman you just mentioned, the
Mike Acker.
Mike Acker. So as we're looking at having community members, so and so forth, join, maybe I'm certainly impressed with the tour, certainly impressed with Mike Ackerman's work. I mean, certainly I would like to include them in some of that education and some of these. So those are names that I would like maybe potentially us to get them involved or say, hey, we're looking at getting going and this is something you may be interested in doing. Cool. Director's comments and announcements. Anything good for the good of the commission, the city? Anything exciting? Anything from your office, Jennifer?
I mean, everything's exciting,
Yeah.
right? I don't really have anything. I'm trying to think. I don't think I have anything to share for the good of the order. And I was just trying to remember when our next meeting is, and I didn't see that on the calendar. But technically, it's going to be in 3 months. So July, August. So it should be in October 13th. Should be the date. So that's why I'm assuming that we'll probably have the general plan available at that time. But October 13th will be our next meeting. But look for an email in regards to ad hocs before then around that.
I have a couple questions, but I want to just open up to commissioner reports and comments on anything. Okay. I'll leave everybody to get going. We have Tuesday night market, so some of us want to still go to that.
So we'll
I have a
close.
quick question on the city manager search.
We can close the.
You wanted me to close? Oh, close public.
Unless you have anything about the Preservation Commission,
Nope,
which is closed.
got it. Okay, so then I need a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
thank you.
All right.